Hello everyone. So we are back in the show and we are starting with a new series of Life in Mountains. So we have different shows this time and we are expected to have different guests from adventure sports background. So we have guests from mountaineering, rock climbing, trekking in the Sahyadris and on a very different topics. So we are looking forward to this show. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast, Life in Mountains. So today we are going to talk about a different topic. जिस टॉपिक में हम बात करेंगे एक्लिमेटाइजेशन के बारे में, जिस टॉपिक में हम बात करेंगे हाई ऑल्टीट्यूड सिकनेस के बारे में. सो टुडे वी हैव अ गेस्ट शंतनु पंडित. सो वेलकम यू शंतनु.
Hey, thank you. My pleasure.
So, talking about Shantanu Pandit is a very experienced mountaineer, I would say. He has done a lot of extensive trekking and rock climbing in the Sahyadris and abroad as well. He has been a very good educator, outdoor educator, and a facilitator for experiential based learning programs for different international companies. And he has been also working with a national leadership outdoor school, that is NOLS, since 2000. So it's been a very long journey. He has been working in this field past more than 40 years now, and he has also written a lot of blogs about outdoor adventure and different topics in adventure sports. So you must visit his website. He is a founder of a company called Echo, and I will also suggest everyone to go and visit his website called outdoorpandit.com, and you will get a lot of idea about what he does in the outdoor field. So I welcome you today on the show. So
Thank
to
you.
begin with, Shantanu, I would like to ask you what inspires you to come into this field, in the adventure field.
Well, the more you think about it, the more reasons crop up in one's mind.
Mm-hmm.
लेकिन मैं कोशिश करता हूँ कि एक दो घटनाएं परहैप्स बता दूंगा
Okay.
जिसकी वजह से एटलीस्ट टू मी इट स्टार्टेड टू मेक सेंस कि कि व्हाई एम आई इंटरेस्टेड इन दिस. तो एक तो ऐसा है कि स्टेइंग इन मुंबई इट इज़ वेरी इजी टू क्विकली पिक अप अ बैकपैक एंड गो एंड हाइक. वेस्टर्न घाट्स है, सह्याद्री है. तो काफ़ी सारे फोर्ट्स है, टेम्पल्स है, केव्स है. तो हाइकिंग करने के लिए कहाँ जाना इज़ अ क्वेश्चन दैट इज़ आंसर्ड रियली इजीली, इज़ हाउ आई लुक एट इट. तो वहीं से शुरुआत हो गई हाइकिंग के लिए. बट देन I would like to narrate an incident which happened, which I think made me find interest in multiple dimensions of the outdoors. So
Okay.
it has been very easy for me to just want to go. वो इंसिडेंट ऐसे था. So there is a fort called राजगढ़. So 25 साल शिवाजी महाराज का वो कैपिटल फोर्ट रहा था.
Right.
So it's a huge fort. It's a fantastic fort, ancient obviously, like many forts in the सह्याद्री. बारिश के मौसम में हम वहाँ गए थे, 5 या 6. ये मैं काफ़ी पुरानी बात कर रहा हूँ. I had just finished school actually, and we were sitting there. थोड़ी सी बारिश हुई थी और बारिश का ही मौसम था तो पूरा गिला था. And my friend who is 6 years senior to me, he was our leader. उसने क्या किया, एक जगह बैठ गए हम और उसने अपनी बैग से इतिहास की किताब निकाली.
Okay.
And he started reading about Rajgarh and the role it played and why it is important. So while this class was happening, monsoon time is a time when a few species of ants, the males come out from the nest, ant
Yeah.
nest.
Yeah.
पंख होते हैं. So they started flying out.
Flying out.
वहाँ पे एक फ्रॉग बैठा था and he started catching those आराम से बैठ के. Now imagine a teenager sitting there history being read in that surrounding, and I had walked that fort. Then I'm seeing something that उस ज़माने में I could read only in National Geographic magazines. वो भी इधर उधर से कहीं से मिल जाते थे. That frog eating the ant. And then that energy to just not be bothered about tiredness and ये दुख रहा है कुछ नहीं. It was so if I go back, that is one of the starkest moments in my life. That I think made me interested in not only hiking but the history of things, and then the culture came in eventually. What are the local cultures, natural history? So I became a member of BNHS and Worldwide Fund for Nature.
Okay.
So I think that's how I would say that that is where the interest began, and then it was just easy to nurture the curiosity. कि और
Right.
चाहिए और चाहिए. And then somebody as probably happens with you and with so many के अरे तू इतना सारा करता है तो rock climbing course कर ले.
Right.
So then I did a rock climbing course, and then there were pinnacles to do it, and then all of us we want to go to the Himalaya.
Yes.
So I think that's how it happened.
Yeah. So ultimately, for the climbers who are born climbers, or I would say those who does a lot of climbing in the Sahyadris, their ultimate aim is always Himalayas.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to go to, Himalayas?
Uh, there is no doubt that wanting to climb was a big pull.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad, and I narrated that incident. I'm so glad that while I went there, I was very alive to the fact that I'm walking in different regions.
Okay.
फिर वहाँ का सारा कल्चर अलग होता है.
अलग
So the
होता है.
food you eat is very different. The dress that
The attire
people
is
have, the
different.
attire is very different. Language obviously is very different. Even the way people think is different. वहाँ के lifestyle is very different. I was very alive to that. So I just wanted to keep going back, keep going back. And I think that is one of the reasons why I shifted from a conventional job to something in the outdoors. It was adventure tourism at that time. कि that will give me the chance to visit many areas. और फिर
Yeah.
जब पर्सनल टाइम मिलेगा तो जाके क्लाइंब करेंगे फिर.
So I was about to come to this topic, that what made you change your mind to, since you have been doing a lot of, outdoor activities. So where was that coming from? Like, how did it change you just mentioned that you shifted your job and you came into outdoor education field. What was that switch like?
Yeah, big thing. So there were many friends, and we actually discussed this. We all have conventional jobs, or there were college students doing, one of them was doing PhD, for instance.
Right.
That we are headed towards a conventional career. लेकिन ये outdoors में career बन सकता है क्या?
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and at that time we used to read books written by people like Chris Bonington, Doug Scott. Oh, this is, I'm talking of late 70s, early 80s.
Yes.
When the books that were available on mountaineering were all British.
Absolutely.
And these people who were making money, they took huge efforts. So it's not only me, but I think many people that today are in the outdoors around us in Mumbai, Pune, about 7 or 8 of us I can identify just like that. We
Mhm.
actually discussed this and we tried it out. So speaking for myself, I tried out writing on adventure. I tried, let us say, photography, and then fortunately adventure tourism का बीज यहाँ तक पहुँच गया था. So then I started going out with a British hiking company.
अच्छा.
और हाँ, और फिर उनके साथ बहुत घूमने घूमने के लिए चांस मिला. Now the thing is पैसे मिले क्या नहीं मिले, but I think the experience was just too much, and this is
Phenomenal.
exactly what I was hungry for. So if I have to answer your question, there are 2 3 things here. I think I was very lucky to be at the right place at the right time,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had it in me to grab that opportunity.
Right.
So I think both these things needed to be together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's how it is. And then one thing led to the other. Then outdoor education came in. So,
Right. Right.
so
So, but when was your first interaction as an outdoor facilitator? Like, when was the first program that happened?
So I have a friend, and you know him. He has already spoken on your podcast, Vasant Vimay.
Right.
He had formal education in outdoor education in Scotland.
Okay.
Came back with the intention of starting outdoor education in India.
Mm-hmm.
Few of us, we were lucky to be around him, and that's how my journey in outdoor education started.
Started.
Uh, so the thing is, that there are two three things. It was not just theory.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it was outdoor education, so it was hands on.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of theory in it in terms of clarifying concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So why a particular age group? What is it that we are trying to achieve? Why and how does it complement formal schooling? So on and so forth. So that is one. Second thing is, so there is this model, there is a theoretical model, and we adopted it and
Right.
adapted it for the Sahyadri
Yes.
terrain,
Yes.
and it was so beautiful. So it all came together. The schools loved us, and they sent children, on 1 week outdoor education programs. So as far as outdoor education is concerned, my formal introduction to that field began with that project. We established a
But
trust.
as you mentioned that outdoor education is very important. So why it is very important for children specifically? Like when we talk about outdoor learning programs are a stepping stone for children. When we take them out for in the outdoors for some activities, why it is very important?
It is important for everybody. So
Absolutely.
it's not only children,
Children,
which
yeah.
is why the corporates very
Yes.
wisely are choosing this methodology. But let's come back to the children. So broadly, you can speak of two categories or areas. One is, if your goal is to teach skills,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes a teach skill outdoor education program.
Right.
And the other broad category is whether the child picks up skills to an adequate level or not is really not important. What we are offering are very meaningful experiences,
Right.
which have a lot of thought behind it. They are guided experiences, and we know what are the potential benefits out of such experiences.
Right.
And so, what are we looking at? So, the benefits, and that's the question, the benefits, or what do these experiences do? So, one thing is, I think it has been acknowledged now, and there's a lot of study done now. It
Mm-hmm.
does contribute tremendously to personal development of child. One thing it does is, it offers multiple avenues of achievement for children. So it's not one or two areas of measuring or evaluating your being good, bad, successful, etc.
Mm-hmm.
A child potentially can shine through some inherent qualities,
Right.
because the outdoor education program offers those opportunities in multiple dimensions. So, I may be really bad at rock climbing, but I'm really great when it comes to reading maps and compasses. So
Yes.
then there is mutual respect in that social group of little children. And then one thing that I anyway spoke about on my Rajgarh experience,
Mm-hmm.
which is what happened with me
Okay.
without knowing the theory.
Right.
An outdoor education program can create a link between academics and reality.
Okay.
So if the child sees fun in academics, hope is the child takes back that perspective to schools and finds an enhanced interest in the academics. And
Okay.
I've seen that happen. So I think it's really beneficial.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's come to the Himalayan treks.
Yeah.
When was the first trek that you've done in Himalayas?
It was not a trek. I had gone to a WWF camp at Vashishtha above Manali,
Okay.
and our there was snow. We did walking in the snow. So that was my first trip to the Himalaya.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we should slot it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wanted to also ask you about your first experience in the Himalayas. Has ever any incident happened with you when you were on the Himalayan trek? Anything that you want to share with our viewers, that any incident in terms of any accident or any mishap happened in the while you are on the trek?
Yeah. So what happens is, now that so many years have passed and I have literally gone every year to the Himalaya on on some trip or the other. Normally hiking trips, obviously, or mountaineering or outdoor education programs. So mishaps happening in either my group or around me uh, is something that is an unfortunate reality, given the sheer span of 4 decades, as you
Yes.
said during the introduction. Maybe what I'll do is, instead of like specifically narrating an incident, I'll probably identify a few things that
Mm-hmm.
will bring us to the main topic today, acclimatization.
Acclimatization. Yes.
Because when you speak of the Himalaya, what has happened is, uh, any average Himalayan trip, the high point we are looking at least 11, 12,000 feet.
Right.
And if you go to areas like, Himachal, Garhwal, then we are looking at higher passes. And then today, Ladakh is on everybody's travel
Right.
list. So
Right.
suddenly you're deposited at the high point of the other regions. So acclimatization, high altitude related aspects become truly important. Why I'm saying that is, related to that, things have happened around me. Many of them, well, let me put it this way. If we look at the what happened? Obviously, non-acclimatization,
Mm-hmm.
but non-acclimatization largely is more of a consequence
Mm-hmm.
than something that is bound to happen.
Okay.
So what that means is, there are some things that need to be in place
Mm-hmm.
so that we stay acclimatized.
Okay.
If this whole thing is imbalanced
Mm-hmm.
or inadequate or inappropriately done, and we will look into that, then the consequences, you start facing problems.
Okay.
So it's not just one thing that, oh, because I went to high altitude, I had acclimatization problems. So coming back to the question, mishaps, um, mountaineers, on one of my expeditions, because of hypothermia, we lost a friend.
Okay.
Multiple factors leading to hypothermia. So one big factor is, and this was really a long time
Long
back,
back.
1988. So a lot of things. So we have kind of lagged behind in terms of, in comparison with many Western countries in the world of mountaineering.
Mm-hmm.
So we just didn't know certain things.
Right.
So what do you base your decisions on? So sheer lack of knowledge also is a factor. So let us acknowledge that. But still sticking to responding to the question. So yes, hypothermia. I have seen that happen with one fatal result, and a few non-fatal but trouble people. Then around me, not belonging in my group, I have seen, for instance, a 14-year-old boy pass away again because of hypothermia, and yeah. So some things did happen, and one
So
keeps
talking
reading
about
about it.
hypothermia, is it a basic step just before, if you are not properly acclimatized, that is the reason why the hypothermia happens, or
No, yes and no. So those two things are different.
different?
So hypothermia happens because it's a cold injury,
Yes.
and not and problems related to non-acclimatization are problems related to lesser atmospheric pressure as you start going up.
Right.
But they are linked in terms of what is it that is happening to you. And I think if we go forward through
Yes.
our
Yes.
interview or through this discussion, uh, I would be able to create those
Answer
links.
those
Hopefully, yeah,
questions. Yeah.
yeah. So it's
So
related.
right.
And
So
just to, because I narrated two hypothermia cases, but yeah. So in my group, for instance, there was a student on a nose course that showed, and we were at probably 14, 15,000 feet high, snow slope, and that student showed signs of high altitude cerebral edema. But because we were alert to that, we quickly dropped down, and 1,500 feet we dropped down, and she just completely recovered because we caught it really early.
wow.
Not that we stopped the treatment, we continued to drop down, but the 1,000 feet drop down was really fast. So a couple of such incidents did happen, and there were illnesses that happened. So it's not only injuries, but other illnesses like, stomach related illnesses and kidney stone coming up.
Right. So in today's topic, 90% of the people who doesn't know about the acclimatization process. So we're going to talk about acclimatization as such with Shantanu sir today. And I have seen people going in Himalayan treks, but they don't know anything about acclimatization. So acclimatization is very important when you go for Himalayan trek. I have seen many people who are coming to us and take advice saying that how we get acclimatized before going for a Himalayan trek. So I would like to ask you on that what is it that how we should tell them that this is the process of getting acclimatized. So how do we explain people? Because 90% of the people who are going to Himalayas, they probably go for the first time and probably for the last time, but they don't know anything about acclimatization. So I think let's talk about more on that particular aspect.
ठीक है, ओके। सो कोई भी चीज़ अगर समझनी है ना, एक्लेमेटाइजेशन हो या हाउ डू आई स्टे वार्म एंड हेल्दी, ये टॉपिक हो या और भी आउटडोर्स में जो सारे टॉपिक है, सो माय अप्रोच आई वुड स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड दिस अप्रोच। एक तो ये जो एक्लेमेटाइजेशन है और नॉन एक्लेमेटाइजेशन है, ये टॉपिक के अंदर हमारे शरीर में क्या होता है एंड व्हाई डज इट हैपन, यहाँ से हमारी शुरुआत होना ज़रूरी है। इसका कारण ऐसा है कि अगर ये मुझे समझ में आया तो मुझे जो कुछ हो रहा है उसका कारण शायद मुझे पता चल पाएगा,
Right.
शायद, इट्स नॉट अ गारंटी। एंड देन आई विल कम टू नो कि इस पे एक्शन क्या लेनी है मुझे। दैट इज़ वन अप्रोच दैट आई स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड एंड आई टेल यू व्हाई दैट इज इम्पोर्टेंट। हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है, मैंने काफ़ी देखा है और अभी अभी भी ऐसे ही हो रहा है कि वेज ऑफ फंक्शनिंग सेट हो जाते हैं।
Right.
और काफ़ी वेज एक तो पुराने होते हैं, या अगर किसी ने कहा कि ये अभी ऐसे करना है और मेरा विचार अलग है, और फिर आप ऐसे क्यों कह रहे हैं, ये अगर डिस्कशन हुआ, नहीं मैं 20 साल से यही कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन मेडिकल साइंस 20 साल वहीं नहीं रुका है।
Absolutely.
और जो हाई अल्टीट्यूड पे रिसर्च करते हैं उनके पास पूरे दुनिया भर का, स्पेशली हिमालय का डेटा जा रहा है। उस डेटा को डॉक्टर्स, हाई अल्टीट्यूड डॉक्टर्स पढ़ाई करके दे आर रिकमेंडिंग चेंजेस इन द वे वी डू थिंग्स।
Right.
तो ये जो 20 साल से मैं कर रहा हूँ मुझे कुछ नहीं हुआ, डजंट मीन कि मेरे ग्रुप में भी ये चलेगा, कुछ तो हो रहा है ना प्रॉब्लम।
Absolutely.
इसीलिए ये बहुत ज़रूरी है कि वी अंडरस्टैंड what happens, why do things happen, what are the possible consequences, and I think most important is what do I do then, and what do I do, शुरुआत कैसे होती है प्रिवेंटिव, कि how do I minimize chances of not getting acclimatized for my group and for myself, how do I constantly monitor, and if something starts going wrong how do I catch it
Right.
so that it doesn't progress। तो ये जो stages है ये आ सकते हैं। So what is recommended is no, so let me say it this way। Mm, so let me tell you how I understand this whole topic। So when we start going at high altitude, now high altitude की definition पहले देख लेते हैं जल्दी। So medically it says 5000 feet
Right.
पे हाई अल्टीट्यूड चालू होता है,
Start होता है.
लेकिन उसके जो साइंस है वो हमें महसूस इतने इंटेंसली नहीं होते। नॉर्मली कब होते हैं वो 8000 फुट जो है, दैट हैज लार्जली बीन डिफाइंड एज an altitude
Right.
that many of us start finding some changes,
Okay.
and our brain can pick up those changes. By the time you hit 10,000, certainly it has started affecting you quite a lot, and then so on. Now, why the body has to adjust to high altitude is because as you start going up, the atmospheric pressure starts dropping.
Dropping.
तो ऑक्सीजन परसेंटेज उतना ही रहता है, जितना परसेंटेज नाइट्रोजन, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, ऑक्सीजन और थोड़े से बाकी ट्रेस गैसेस है, उसका जो यहाँ पे कंपोजिशन है वो कंपोजिशन ऑब्वियसली उतना ही रहता है। बट जो एयर मॉलिक्यूल्स है वो कम हो जाते हैं. सो विथ एवरी ब्रेथ देयर आर लेस मॉलिक्यूल्स
going into your body.
सो माय बॉडी डज so my body is not getting enough oxygen molecules inside my lungs for the hemoglobin to catch. So
Okay.
that is where the whole thing begins. And a whole lot of other things are happening related to the pressure part, the lesser and lesser and lesser atmospheric pressure. Now, why it is important to understand this is now I come to two things that directly affect me. So the brain understands that these things are happening, and I need to start adapting to the lower atmospheric pressure, which means we call it high altitude. I mean,
Right.
yeah, we refer to it as high altitude जा रहे तो. And it is quite amazing. So the body starts doing a lot of things. Simple एक दो चीज बताता हूँ. एक तो क्या the brain क्या करता है फिर कि डाइजेशन के लिए थोड़ा ब्लड सप्लाई कम कर दो बिकॉज आई नीड ऑक्सीजन which is why appetite starts
Going down.
at altitude. Okay, so it's all logical, it's beautiful.
But this is a very interesting fact that the brain needs blood, and that is why it reduces your other.
In first aid terms, the brain is known as a brat. बाकी सब गए भाड़ में. I need oxygen, I need pressure,
Yeah.
I need temperature,
Right.
I need sugar. It is a brat. And then other organs start suffering. और फिर क्या होता है हम लोग आमतौर पर हाइक हो जाते हैं. So we need a lot of oxygen for working.
Working.
Okay,
Absolutely.
our legs are working. And the brain has to decide this whole distribution of oxygen. और oxygen कम है. So it starts making some chemical changes. But that takes time. So RBC मतलब red blood corpuscles जो होते हैं रक्त पेशियां लाल उसका प्रोडक्शन बढ़ जाता है लेकिन उसको टाइम लगता है. Which is why acclimatization takes time. So that is one part. So I think what we need to understand is the body is amazing. आमतौर पर it starts adapting by itself.
Okay.
There are a few cases where people are genetically predisposed to not getting acclimatized. तो वो परसेंटेज निकाल देंगे. So that is genetics, hereditary आ गया. But आमतौर पर हम सारे एडजस्ट होना चालू कर देते हैं. Now there are some things. So the second part is I have to support this body. I think वहाँ पे जब कमी आ जाती है तब the body is anyway struggling, the brain is anyway struggling, and we saw how it is struggling. Then it doesn't get the support. Then it starts wondering कि ये क्या हो रहा है? Why is this person not drinking enough water?
Right.
Why is this अभी ये कोल्ड पे आ गया कनेक्शन. जो जितना फूड अंदर जा रहा है क्योंकि एपिटाइट तो कम हो गया है उसमें से some food is being used to create heat energy, but this person is not managing heat properly.
Right.
So then the brain is required to work more just to keep the person warm.
So I've heard a lot of myths about acclimatization. So if you can tell us something about what you heard, specifically about the myths about acclimatization. So, like for example, to just give you an example, I've heard a lot of people asking us about if I take Dimox on altitude,
Yeah.
my altitude sickness goes away immediately. So, is this a myth or what is it like?
Yeah, so inadequate knowledge perhaps is worse than not having knowledge, any knowledge at all.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So डायमॉक्स से शुरुआत करते हैं.
Okay.
तो ये शायद गलतफहमी काफी स्ट्रांग है लोगों में कि अरे मैंने डायमॉक्स ले लिया अब तो कुछ नहीं होगा. My understanding says it doesn't work like that. Dimox is just one factor that mostly helps. But ये जो बाकी सारे बात कर रहे हैं हम कि एपिटाइट कम हो रहा है तो खाना क्या खाना चाहिए, लेयरिंग करो, एंड देन प्लान एंड प्रिपेयर. वो जो ट्रिप ट्रिप की so I think we should talk about that also. कि how do you plan? But quickly referring to that, कि when I plan a trip sitting in Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, uh, how do I plan my trip? So उसको staged ascent बोलते हैं.
Okay.
So which means you go very gradually gaining
Gradually.
altitude.
Yes.
If I don't do all those things, then Dimox alone, in my understanding, will not help you stay acclimatized.
Okay.
Now whether to take Dimox or not, so I have mountaineer friends who are doctors, two or three of them, and I like to put it this way: कि the world is divided between Dimox लेंगे या नहीं लेंगे.
Right.
I have a doctor friend who strongly advises कि Dimox ले लो. So prophylactically मतलब preventively उसका यूज 100% मेडिकल फील्ड ने बोला है कि डायमॉक्स प्रोफिलैक्टिकली आप ले लो, उसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. देर आर सम साइड इफेक्ट्स विच यू शुड बी अवेयर ऑफ.
Okay.
ओके, इट्स अ डायूरेटिक, तो मतलब पेशाब ज़्यादा होती है तो पानी ज़्यादा पीना चाहिए. कुछ लोगों को टिंगलिंग सेंसेशन होता है फिंगर टिप्स पे, तो डायमॉक्स ले रहे हो क्या, तो शायद उसका है, दूसरा कोई कारण नहीं है. So if you are aware of some things, then there are people who are taking Dimox and absolutely it works beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
But for instance, on all my trips, even on my formal courses that I teach to the US organization, NOLS आपने बताया लोगों
Right.
को, वहाँ हम Dimox नहीं लेते क्योंकि we are so confident in getting these things right
Mm-hmm.
कि we have never felt the need to give Dimox preventively at all. In fact, तो कितने साल, 10-12 साल, twice a year I have gone to the Himalaya teaching 1 month courses. Even as a it's not a cure, but even to help a person, मैंने डायमॉक्स यूज ही नहीं की because this the preventive approach was so strong.
Yes.
तो एक गलतफहमी शायद ऐसी है कि डायमॉक्स चाहिए ही, उसके बिना मत जाओ. आई थिंक दैट इज अ मिथ.
Okay.
And if I take Dimox, then I'm done. I think that is also dangerous.
Mm.
So
I've heard one more thing about, I don't know whether it is a myth or something else, but people talk about when you are on the altitude, you keep, this part of your ears open so that you get acclimatized very easily. Is that true? Okay.
no, no, my first aid training says no. Like
No.
I've been doing wilderness first responder course since 2000.
Okay.
I have recertified every 2 years. So nowhere have I ever uh, uh,
Heard
not
this.
done it. Like yeah, I've always stayed current. There have been a lot of changes, and as far as this is concerned,
Yeah. Yeah.
it is very clear कि stay warm, feel warm,
Right.
do
Yes.
everything
Yes. Yes.
possible in your control to just take care of your body in terms of warmth.
Yes.
And if that means covering your ears, cover your ears.
So I think one thing is very important on altitude. When you go on altitude, having enough water and eating proper food will help you to increase or get acclimatized properly. Is that so?
So, so let us look at. You are reminding me of a few more myths now.
Okay.
So just like Dimox, पानी पियो ज़्यादा, पानी पियो ज़्यादा, और सिर्फ उतना किया तो उससे काम नहीं होता है. We have to
Okay.
do other things. Um, Another myth is I have been to altitude. अब मेरे को प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा. No, the body does not learn acclimatization like it learns how to cycle or ride a
Mm-hmm.
motorcycle. वो
Okay.
balancing कभी भूलता नहीं है brain. लेकिन we have to acclimatize every time we go, all of us. So maybe that is another myth. Another thing that people need to watch out for is जो fit people होते हैं. तो ये मैं लिटरली सिंस लेट 70s 80s जब मैं पहले माउंटेनियरिंग पे किताब पढ़ी, तभी से मैं ये देखते आया हूँ कि फिट पीपल प्लीज वॉच आउट. क्योंकि दो
Okay.
उसके दो कारण हैं. एक ऐसा कि मैं फिट हूँ इसलिए मैं ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह एक्लामेटाइज हो जाऊंगा, ये मिथ है.
It is
There has been no correlation between your level of fitness and your ability to acclimatize. These two
okay.
are distinct things. Largely, being fit helps because yeah. I mean, it helps because you can take better care of yourself. You don't
Mm-hmm.
get tired so easily. और दूसरा चीज जो मैंने माउंटेनियरिंग बुक्स की बात की वो ऐसे कि मेरे ग्रुप में अगर मैं सबसे फिट हूँ तो मैं ज़्यादा काम कर सकता हूँ और ग्रुप को मदद करने के लिए मैं ज़्यादा काम कर देता हूँ.
Okay.
एंड देन मेरी रेस्ट कम पड़ जाती है एंड माई बॉडी नीड्स रेस्ट.
Rest.
सो इट हैज़ टू बी दैट बैलेंस. सो मे बी दैट इज अनदर मिथ दैट वी आर लुकिंग at. But so it is. So if you look at what all I need to do in order to be well
Yeah. So if you
acclimatized,
can give us some tips how to get acclimatized, like then it is very easy for our viewers to understand.
yeah, very true. So let us begin right. sitting in our homes or offices, you got to plan a schedule of your trip which is meant for maximizing your chances of staying happy, healthy, and being successful
Mm-hmm.
in the Himalaya or on the route that you are going to. काफी लोग फिर वापिस आ जाते हैं, they don't reach the high pass, or they go but they are miserable. I have seen that. I have seen groups hiking, and by the time people go, they are just ready to collapse. And
Right.
the whole beauty of the new camp and
Mm.
being with each other, all that is lost on these people, unfortunately. So your planning has to be really great. Now, what does that mean? So, because I've been in adventure travel and I've interacted with so many groups, considerable number of people plan a high altitude trek depending on how much leave they are getting. Sunday to Sunday पैक कर दो ना,
Right.
ऐसे नहीं होता है. ऑल्टीट्यूड को अगर जाना है और उसके लिए एक रिकमेंडेड रिकमेंडेड ऑल्टीट्यूड गेन पर डे अगर है, तो वो आप, दैट शुड बी द क्राइटेरियन
Criteria.
ऑन विच यू शुड बेस योर शेड्यूल रादर देन आपको ऑफिस में या बिजनेस से कितना टाइम मिल रहा है. तो ये शायद ज़्यादा एक्सट्रीम होगा, ये थोड़ा
Yeah.
सरकास्टिक हो रहा है, बट ये रियलिटी है, ऐसे लोग करते हैं. मुझे आई है इंक्वायरी कि संडे टू संडे पैक कर दो. पैक. सो now what does that mean? So the schedule ideally, like if you go to a wilderness medical book,
Yeah.
they will actually say 1000 1500 फीट, बट माउंटेनियरिंग सर्कल्स में हमने देखा है श्रीपाद की 2000 फुट तक आप हाइट गेन करो
Gain कर सकते हैं.
एंड देन यू कैन स्टे देयर.
Right.
उससे ज़्यादा किया तो यू आर इंक्रीजिंग द चांसेस ऑफ नॉट एडजस्टिंग प्रॉपर्ली.
Right.
वो क्या ऐसी चाबी नहीं है कि अरे 2000 फुट से ज़्यादा बढ़ गया था अभी तो प्रॉब्लम आने वाला है आपको, ऐसा नहीं. बट यू इंक्रीज द चांसेस. So keep it to 2000. Another thing that is easy for mountaineers to follow and very hard to follow on a hike is work high and sleep low. मतलब
Yeah.
काम ऊपर करो और नीचे आके, ताकि your brain now knows कि you have gone up to a higher altitude, 2000 फुट ऊपर चले गए थे and the changes are happening.
Mm.
तो दूसरे दिन आप नीचे से फिर उस हाइट पे चले जाते हैं, तो your body has done a lot of adjustment already, so it's easier for you to acclimatize. So ये हुआ पूरे शेड्यूल का प्लानिंग. इन अ डे यू आर सपोज टू वॉक रियली स्लो, और वहाँ पे अभी अभी तक I keep hearing from people, you know, I guide people, individuals on how to go, let us say, climb Kilimanjaro. And then that lady comes back and says कि हमारे ग्रुप में एक फिट आदमी था, भाग रहा था, and he had problems, और मैं तो, मेरे को प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं हुई. Because I drilled it into her that do not look
Yes.
at others. You
Yeah.
have guides with you. Tell the guide that I'm going to walk at. The guide will know that you're going to walk at your pace. And so walk very slowly, take it easy, enjoy your surroundings. That is why, that is one of the reasons you're going. Walk slow. That is one. Then obviously drink a lot of water. So everything in the body requires water. Period. Breathing, thinking. We already talked about
Yes.
brain being a brat. My movements, ability to make judgments. ये सारा, एबिलिटी टू मेक डिसीजंस, ये सारा वाटर पे डिपेंड करता है. सो हाउ मच वाटर शुड यू ड्रिंक, आई थिंक द इंडिकेशन, बिकॉज इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन कितना हार्ड वर्क कर रहे हो आप, कितना
Mm.
पसीना जा रहा है, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. सो आई थिंक व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू नो इज, एम आई फ्रीक्वेंटली पासिंग यूरिन, पेशाब
Okay.
करने के लिए मैं फ्रीक्वेंटली जाता हूँ क्या,
Mm-hmm.
और जब पेशाब होती है तो वो क्लियर है क्या. वो
Mm.
अगर कलर्ड होने लगेगी तो देन दैट इज एन इंडिकेशन दैट आई एम प्रोबेबली स्लाइटली डिहाइड्रेटेड.
Dehydrated.
So I
Yes.
should take corrective action. So water definitely, and nutrition is important, especially at high altitude. Normally people are working quite a lot, so you need a lot of continuous supply of energy. So you need to eat more carbohydrates
Mm-hmm.
and less of proteins and fats.
Right.
But it's complicated. Maybe we should talk about it a bit more. ये compartmentalized नहीं है, so
It is
let us not
completely a
fall
different.
into a trap. हाँ, it is a
Yes.
different topic. But yes, eat appropriately. 100% avoid junk food. 100%.
Okay.
क्योंकि एक तो your brain is struggling with lesser appetite. I mean, it has told the stomach कि थोड़ा आराम से ले लो,
आराम से.
कम खाएंगे, digestion में ज़्यादा, and if you eat junk food, then it's a complete not only waste, but I think you are burdening your digestive system. So no junk food, eat appropriately, study what is to be eaten at what time. nutrition is one thing. Um,
So as you mentioned, sorry to interrupt
yeah,
you.
yeah,
As
yeah.
you mentioned on the altitude when you started walking, your pace gets slower. Why is that? Like बहुत सारे लोग देखते हैं कि if I am a fit person and I am walking properly when I am in the Sahyadris, but when a person goes on altitude, his pace automatically comes down to
Reduces.
almost 50%.
Yeah.
So why is that? Your brains, gives instructions to your feet, or how does it work?
No, I wish the brain had control over full control over
Absolutely.
how fast we can walk. It kicks in finally when we overdo things consciously.
Yes.
Then the brain says कि अभी इसको सुला दो.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, और सांस इतनी खुला दोगे ये चल नहीं पाएगा. But yeah, but coming to that, so as we discussed earlier, there is less oxygen
Yeah.
that the body is able to get into the system.
Mm-hmm.
Now that oxygen is powering my walking muscles,
Okay.
and there is less oxygen. So and the same thing is happening with lungs as well as the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So let us go through it very quickly, just 2 3 points. So what happens is there is less oxygen, so the brain sends signal to the lungs की respiratory rate increase करो.
Okay.
तो रेस्पिरेटरी रेट इंक्रीज क्यों करूँ कि वन ब्रेथ अंदर चला गया, उससे ऑक्सीजन एक्सचेंज हो गया कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड से, उसको जल्दी निकाल दो, दूसरा ले लो ताकि हमें और ऑक्सीजन मिले, बिकॉज वी आर नाउ फाइटिंग फॉर ऑक्सीजन मॉलिक्यूल्स. टू सपोर्ट इंक्रीज रेस्पिरेटरी रेट, द हार्ट बीट इंक्रीजेस.
Increases. Yes.
So these are normal signs.
Okay.
If you acclimatize to an altitude and stay there, then they return to normal because RBC concentration बढ़ गया अभी, red blood corpuscles का concentration बढ़ गया,
Right. Right.
then you don't need an increase here. So while all this is happening, there is not enough oxygen. वो transition period जो है उस transition period में there is not enough oxygen reaching your walking muscles, and your lungs and heart are anyway struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Not struggling, but they're working slightly more than is normal in your city or town that you stay in, which is why your pace slows down.
So this is very normal when you go on altitude.
Absolutely, and it has to be respected.
Yes. Yes.
Bhagna is the trap that people
So
fall into.
people should not think that there is something wrong.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
We should discuss ki how do I know when this transition has started going into the wrong stage.
Okay.
वो जानना बहुत जरूरी है. Otherwise, this is normal.
So I want to ask you, what are the practical tips when you go on high altitude or for acclimatization? For example, जब हम high altitude पे किसी trek के लिए जाते हैं, and when you are having enough water, when you are having enough food, so what are the things that you should not go wrong? So
Yeah,
let us
yeah.
talk about something on that part.
Right, right. Okay. So I touched upon planning really well. Now here are a few things that literally, I mean, I'll try to now go through a checklist in my head.
Okay.
If there is somebody, no, sorry. Uh, so the practical tips I can quickly kind of बुलेट फॉर्मेट में बताता हूँ आपको. अभी मान लिया हमने कि हम हमारा ट्रैक प्लान अच्छा किया है, वो स्टेज एसेंट जो था उस हिसाब से किया है. आई गॉट प्रॉपर क्लोथिंग,
Right.
प्रॉपर डाइट प्लान करके आया हूँ. सो व्हेन आई एक्चुअली स्टार्ट, हियर आर अ फ्यू थिंग्स दैट आई लुक एट टू स्टे एक्लेमेटाइज्ड. One thing is, if there is something that I have learned new,
Okay.
I like to take notes with me even today.
Okay.
So I would strongly encourage people to do a wilderness first aid course, जहाँ पे लोगों को समझाया जाता है कि ये जो हो रहा है ये क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, उसके परिणाम क्या है, अच्छे और बुरे. इसका एक बहुत अच्छा इफेक्ट है. मेरा मेरी डिसीजन मेकिंग एबिलिटी ज़्यादा अच्छी हो जाती है. I'm better equipped to make safer decisions for myself and then for others. So I would strongly encourage that. Actually, वहाँ पे if I understand what is happening to my body, I know how what kind of support I should give. So I will not get unnecessarily influenced by
Okay.
people in my group. If somebody is walking faster than me,
Yes.
if somebody is not feeling cold and I'm feeling cold,
Cool.
so one big thing is walk slow, हमने बात की. Always stay warm.
Mm-hmm.
थोड़ा सा ज्यादा वार्म है फिर भी चलेगा,
Okay.
बट स्टे वार्म.
Mm-hmm.
विल्डरनेस फर्स्ट एड इज वेरी क्लियर कि मेडिकल साइंस डिफाइंस हाइपोथर्मिया at a certain stage. But
Mm-hmm.
wilderness medicine defines hypothermia right at the onset of feeling cold.
Okay.
And why that is important is it is very now I'm giving a practical tip. Why it is important is if I know cold management, if I know acclimatization tips, if I know other things, I will know when to start taking actions before things go bad.
Mm.
So stay warm is what I'm saying because it will help your acclimatization eventually if it's connected.
Right.
Uh, if you feel a bit of nausea, if you feel a bit of headache, inform your group leader immediately. Also, look at कितना पानी पिया है आपने, rest कितनी ली है. So a lot of times what happens is groups of friends go on hikes
Mm-hmm.
और वहाँ जाके दोस्ती बन जाती है. एंड देन इट इज़ वेरी टेम्पटिंग और ये एक्सेप्टेड है. मतलब मैं समझ सकता हूँ कि गपशप मारने बैठ गए, फिर रात को देर हो जाती है. बट आई थिंक द बॉडी नीड्स रेस्ट,
Yes.
सो
Yes.
यू शुड रेस्ट. फिर क्या होता है, वन ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट हैपेंस एट हाई एल्टीट्यूड इज डिस्टर्ब स्लीप. अभी उसको
Yes.
टेक्निकल टर्म्स है, इफ यू गो टू फर्स्ट एड लैंग्वेज लेट अस नॉट गो देयर, बट दैट इज अगेन नॉर्मल.
Mm-hmm.
तो डिस्टर्ब स्लीप है तो उठो मत. एंड देन मेरे को नींद नहीं आ रही है, इट्स नॉट दैट, द बॉडी इज स्टिल रेस्टिंग. इट इज जस्ट अ
Mm.
डिस्टर्ब स्लीप टिल यू गेट एक्लेमेटाइज टू दैट ऑल्टीट्यूड. सो रेस्ट, अवॉइड जंक फूड, हमने बात की. वन बिग थिंग इज, if on a hike people are sleeping in tents,
Mm-hmm.
100% keep the tents ventilated.
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 Okay.
So we should understand the tent is not providing you primarily
Mm-hmm.
the warmth. आपको वार्म रखने का काम कौन कर रहा है? स्लीपिंग बैग कर रही
Sleeping
है.
bag कर
सो
रही है.
यू शुड गेट स्कूल्ड, एक्चुअली स्कूल्ड इन हाउ टू यूज द स्लीपिंग बैग. बिकॉज मैंने इतना देखा है कि स्लीपिंग बैग कैसे यूज करना सिखाया नहीं जाता ग्रुप्स में, या लोगों को पूरी तरह पता नहीं चलता क्योंकि
Mm.
मे बी 20-30 पीपल आर सिटिंग, समबडी क्विकली गिव्स अ लेक्चर. लेकिन वो जो छोटी छोटी चीज़ें हैं जिसकी वजह से मेरी पूरी बॉडी ट्रैप हो जाती है स्लीपिंग बैग के अंदर, वो अगर पूरा नहीं हुआ
Mm.
तो देन आई एम नॉट स्लीपिंग वार्म.
Wow. Right.
बट द टेंट हैज़ टू बी वेंटिलेटेड. बिकॉज क्या होता है, जब हम सोते हैं 2-4 आदमी टेंट के अंदर होते हैं, दो तो होते ही है कम से कम. And when sleeping, anybody sleeps, the respiratory rate goes down, the heart rate goes down.
Mm.
So it is not helping your body. और उसमें अगर आपने पूरा बंद कर दिया तो then you are increasing the volume of
Yes.
stale air inside the tent.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tents are to be ventilated.
Ventilated.
100%. Yeah, you should get fresh air inside the tents.
I have heard one more thing on altitude when you are at a certain height and you're going to stay in the tents for a night and then move on to the next camp on the next day. People just put up their tent, or if the tent is ready, they just go inside the tent and stay inside the tent. So, do we really suggest that? Or, sometimes people say that, you must be out all the time. Not all the time, but maximum time you should be in the outdoors. I mean, standing outside of
Outside
the
in a
tent.
camp, yeah.
So, how does it help?
So I wish things were very simple. कि ये करो ये मत करो.
Yes.
Now, which is why I think one should understand why things are happening. So my judgment improves. So coming to the point, I feel it is always a balance.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the way I look at it. ये broad guideline है. इसका मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि ये सबके लिए काम करेगा इसी तरह से.
Mm.
I think it is important to understand कि मुझे अभी किसकी जरूरत है. So if I
Right.
have walked, let us say सुबह सुबह 8 बजे चालू कर दिया चलना, I have gained 1,500 feet height. कैंप में पहुंच गए, थक गया हूँ, तो रेस्ट.
Mm-hmm.
बिकॉज यू नीड रेस्ट. इफ दैट मीन्स गोइंग एंड टेकिंग अ नैप, बाय ऑल मीन्स टेक अ नैप.
Mm.
कीप द टेंट वेंटिलेटेड, वो तो हमने बात
Yes.
की. बट टेक अ नैप, बट देन गेट आउट.
Hmm.
because circulation is required.
Required.
You need to move around. Plus क्या होता है, if this is the way I look at it. Even emotionally, I think it helps quite a lot. कि I am tired. There are these questions कि अरे मैं ट्रिप पे क्यों आ गया, ये होता है.
Yes.
We all
Yes.
have gone through that.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, you need things that will enrich your camping life also.
Hmm.
Even emotionally, it is so good to just talk to people, to look around, to do photography and all that, you know. But more importantly, coming back to acclimatization, your brain needs oxygen. So you need to get out. अभी ये जो है कि कितना रेस्ट करो कितना नहीं करो, you have to balance it out.
Right.
कितना काम करो नहीं करो. We already talked about it. Super fit people sometimes face a problem because they are working overtime and they just tire themselves
Yes.
out. We don't want that. It's a balance. But I believe that you should get out in the evenings at least. बारिश नहीं है तो you should rest if it is required. कुछ नहीं तो बैठे रहो किताब पढ़ो but
Yes.
rest. Just don't keep walking.
Okay. So next question is very important, and I feel, I mean, it's very interesting that children should go on the higher altitude at a certain age, or किस age में बच्चों ने जाना चाहिए altitude पे? Because this question is coming to a lot of people like you, saying that कि मेरा 4 साल का बच्चा है या 2 साल की बच्ची है या जो भी है,
Yeah.
can they take their children in the Himalayas? So tell us about that.
Again, I wish there is a simple answer.
Yes.
And I just want to, okay. Um, so here is a set of things that I can think of for now,
Okay.
and which have stayed consistent literally for three and a half decades.
Mm-hmm.
Very consistent. So let us look at this. First, the little reading that I did on children at altitude, there is no difference across ages in terms of how high altitude treats you or you respond to high altitude. The other way around actually. Okay. तो चिल्ड्रन है तो उनको ज़्यादा डिफिकल्टी होगी या कम होगी, ऐसे अब तक तो डेटा आया नहीं है. इज द लिटिल रीडिंग दैट आई हैव डन एंड आई विल बी हैप्पी टू गेट corrected on that because I will get educated then by different research.
Mm-hmm.
So let us keep that in mind. Second thing is, if we go to outdoor education, so why outdoor education? Sports, singing, sports like swimming, etc., and outdoors involve physical movement, a lot of hand-to-eye coordination,
Right.
and there are some things that require endurance.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that require strength, like for instance in rock climbing.
Yes.
So the whole idea is what are outdoor educationists and educationists saying about answering this kind of a question.
Yes.
So the way I understand it is like this. So there are clear slabs. So there are these definitions of infant कौन है, toddler कौन है, child कौन है. But anything seems to start from 8. 8 to 14 is a very
Right age.
well, no. I'm saying it's a very oft repeated age group.
Okay.
Then you have 15 to 17. Then we have 18 plus. Largely इधर उधर एक दो साल, लेकिन एक दो साल से ज़्यादा इधर उधर होता नहीं है across the fields and world.
Yes. Yes.
In my understanding. So there is a reason behind it. So the little that I understand, it is like this. Is the child ready for an endurance activity? That is one part.
Mm-hmm.
Is the child ready for a strength activity that normally adults indulge in?
Mm-hmm.
रॉक क्लाइंबिंग डेफिनेटली वी आर लुकिंग एट पावर टू वेट रेशियो. इवन
Yes.
एडल्ट्स में हमें फर्क दिखाई देता है. जो रॉक क्लाइंबिंग करते हैं उसकी पावर टू वेट रेशियो बहुत हाई होती है.
हाई होता है.
और आम आदमी का नहीं होता है बिकॉज देयर मसल्स एंड देयर एबिलिटी इज नॉट चैलेंज इन दैट एरिया.
Mm-hmm.
So why this age 8 needs to be looked into by people. And the third thing is emotionally also, what is the child capable of enjoying,
Yes.
and are we doing it right?
Right.
So then the question arises, does that mean that I don't take a child into the outdoors? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that. I'm saying what are the elements of activity that
Mm-hmm.
you are including for a small child who is perhaps 5 years old or 4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
वो जो है वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. अगर मैं किसी बच्चे को बच्ची को गार्डन में लेके जाता हूँ, उसका एक्सटेंशन होता है आउटडोर्स.
Mm-hmm.
बट जो गार्डन में खेलते हैं, 5 साल का लड़का जो खेलता है, लड़की खेलती है, वो पहाड़ में वही खेलते हैं
Right.
ज्यादातर. दे आर नॉट लुकिंग एट दिस ब्यूटीफुल माउंटेन्स, आहा हा, एंड एंजॉयिंग द वे एडल्ट्स डू. Chances are like that.
Yes.
It is making an impact. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. It is making a good impact. So it's a balance. There is one more very crucial thing
Mm-hmm.
that a doctor friend of mine who also is still is leading groups in the Himalaya since 40 years now. He and I, we have discussed this quite a lot because I went to him for guidance exactly with this question, and this has stayed consistent. See, the thing is, if we say कि altitude को adjustment children भी करते हैं, और इफ आई से कि ठीक है यार, वो बड़ा माउंटेन्स और वो इतना सब अचीव किया, उसका अगर उनको जॉय नहीं है, ठीक है, नहीं है, लेकिन
Mm-hmm.
लेके तो जाता हूँ बिकॉज द इम्पैक्ट इज ह्यूज, कुछ किया.
Mm-hmm.
बट देर आर अदर मोडालिटीज, देर आर आउटडोर एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम्स
Right.
which are very studied. They are designed with a purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the potential to create bigger impact
Right.
than dragging a child all the way to, let us say, Everest base camp. Or
Mm-hmm.
but there is one more point, and the doctor said this, and even now he says this, and I agree to that. कि a child may not be able to communicate properly अगर कुछ problem आ गया,
Uh,
and we don't know how to
because
then
his body doesn't understand what is going on,
what is happening, and they don't have the vocabulary, they don't have the capacity to understand all these
understand
things.
things.
और जैसे आपने कहा कि मुझे क्या हो रहा है वो मैं बताऊं कैसे. और वो
Mm.
अगर कम्युनिकेशन में प्रॉब्लम आ गया, तो फिर जो फर्स्ट एड करने वाले हैं या एक्शन लेने वाले हैं उस पे, उनका शायद थोड़ा सा गलत हो सकता है. सो आई थिंक दैट इज द मेन थिंग. इनफैक्ट द डॉक्टर फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन इज वेरी क्लियर दैट वो, यस, अंडरस्टैंड 8 to 14 इज अ एज स्लैब. ही मेक्स इट अ गाइडलाइन कि 10 साल से ऊपर लेके जाओ.
Mm.
उसके नीचे देर आर अदर मोड्स, पहाड़ में लेके
Yeah.
जाओ जरूर, लेकिन
But on what altitude it should be
altitude
decided.
altitude is, altitude is one thing, and going to altitude normally requires endurance. So
Yeah.
why do that?
Yeah.
Because
So I've seen recently few advertisement I would say, but some post on
posts,
social media saying that a 4-year girl uh, recently achieved a milestone of reaching Everest base camp.
yeah,
So when you see something like that, a 4-year old girl or 2-year old girl, that gives me a different impact. Saying that सच में ये ज़रूरी है क्या इस एज ग्रुप में. सो दैट इज समथिंग पीपल शुड थिंक अबाउट, लाइक
I think
किस
so.
एज ग्रुप में बच्चों को लेके जाना चाहिए ऑन दैट ऑल्टीट्यूड, बिकॉज टॉकिंग अबाउट एवरेस्ट बेस कैंप इज ऑलमोस्ट 18,000 feet. So which is
Very
quite a
serious,
altitude,
very serious height
very
gain.
serious height gain.
Yeah,
So that is something people should think about.
seriously think about, because when such posts make rounds, then others are inspired. और
Hmm.
जो हमने देखा कि inappropriately prepared
Hmm.
होता है, you are
Hmm.
increasing the chances of something going wrong
Hmm.
somewhere.
So, what are the valuable lessons from all these points? Like, uh, लोगों ने क्या सीखना चाहिए? Because मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि 90% of the chunk is following what is going on internet. They
Yes.
just read things and then they follow. But what are the actual things that they must follow when they go on altitude in simple language? Like, because they are not, people who are watching this podcast may not be a good mountaineers or may not be a good trekkers. So most of them will be going for the first time because April and May is coming and a lot of people
Yeah,
are
a lot of
going on
people.
the mountains, especially in Himalayas. So what are the things that they should follow in quick words? Like, I mean, you have taken us through the entire thing, but what are those few points that must
Almost,
people
yes.
must follow?
Uh, I think so. Let me try to kind of summarize and go through points
Yes.
wherever possible. I'll elaborate quickly. I think education, reading up, is the foundation for staying happy and safe at altitude. I'm saying two words very purposely.
Mm-hmm.
People jump to safety,
Yes.
but I have seen people not be happy, not achieve the purpose for which they have gone.
Mm-hmm.
Even like it's so unfortunate, but I should say this: कि, last few months, में there was a hiking peak that my friend had gone to. The person that had that, it was a commercial trip. It was an Everester who arranged that
Organized.
trip, and this person had done my friend had done an old course. I'm saying that because Knowles course is a 1 month course where they teach you all these things. Whatever I'm talking in
Mm.
this small time, it's done elaborately. People practice it. They gain confidence in practices. What works
Mm.
for me is different from what works for
Yes.
you. So he was experienced and he had the basic theory fundas clear in his head. अभी वो भी कहते थे कि हमारे लीडर को लेके ये क्लैरिटी नहीं थी और हम सिर्फ मैं और लीडर सिर्फ दो समिट पे पहुंचे बाकी सारे ग्लेशियर से निकल गए
Okay.
and that is not expected.
Yeah.
And the group was what, 12, 15 people, something like that, less than 20 but more than 10.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You have to set people up for success. So I think the point is, when a person is planning to go, set yourself up for success,
Yes.
maximize the chances that you will reach the goal that you have set. कि
Set.
हाई पास है, समिट है, जो कुछ है, रूट कंप्लीट करना है. एंड द बेस्ट थिंग इज आई विल एंजॉय एवरी मोमेंट ऑफ इट, इट इज पॉसिबल.
Mm.
उसके लिए यू गॉट टू स्टे वार्म, उसके लिए यू गॉट टू ईट प्रॉपर्ली, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. सो एजुकेशन आई थिंक इज ग्रेट. Do a first aid course, wilderness first aid course, that has 40% component as practicals.
Mm-hmm.
आम फर्स्ट एड कोर्स जो है वो ज़्यादातर लेक्चर से डिलीवर किया जाता है और उससे रिटेंशन, आपका नॉलेज का रिटेंशन कम होता है. यू आर नॉट डन इट, डन थिंग्स. सो माय स्ट्रॉन्ग रिकमेंडेशन, दैट इज द सेकंड पार्ट.
Mm-hmm.
थर्ड थिंग इज बी वेरी कॉशियस ऑफ सेट प्रोसेसेस.
Mm-hmm.
अभी मैं यहाँ आपके प्लेटफॉर्म पे एक्सपोर्ट करके आ गया हूँ, डर लगता है
Yes. Yes.
कि लोग सुनेंगे, क्वेश्चन एवरीथिंग
Yes.
एंड रीड. एंड इंटरनेट की आपने बात की, गो टू ऑथेंटिक सोर्सेस,
Yes. Yes.
टेक द ट्रबल टू गो टू ऑथेंटिक सोर्सेस. और
Mm-hmm.
जो आदमी कहता है मैं 20 साल से यही कर रहा हूँ, 10 साल से यही कर रहा हूँ, बी वेरी कॉशियस.
Cautious.
बिकॉज डर लगता है, एक तो पीपल आर गोइंग टू लिसन टू दीज थिंग्स. सेकेंड थिंग इज, इवन नाउ सम रिसर्च इज हैपनिंग दैट आई हैव मिस्ड आउट ऑन,
Yes.
and I've said something that is, not based on that.
Yes. Yes.
So that's still the education part. Another part is, I think organizations के लिए people don't network. We
Mm.
got to network. We got to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
वो नहीं होता है. So I would really strongly recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Probably one or two last things कि ये जो सारे, so I spoke about this clarity कि the body starts adapting. It is a wonderful thing that happens to us. We are beautiful and we need to support that.
Yeah.
तो ये जो है, ये चेकलिस्ट आप सीधा प्रिंट आउट निकाल के जेब में रखो.
Right.
and and if you feel something is going wrong,
Mm.
take it out and look at the checklist कि मैंने ये किया, हाँ ये ठीक किया, पानी कितना पिया कल, हाँ
Mm.
पानी कल कम पिया ज़्यादा. So go through that whole checklist that the wilderness first aid course will teach you, and refer to that, and it has helped me.
In fact, while you said this, I have seen many groups a few decades ago, a few years ago, when they are organizing a particular trek, let's say Everest Base Camp trek or any other altitude trek, they used to go out on a small hikes every weekend,
Yes.
and then they used to talk what may go wrong, what should be the precautions that we must take. So this is, I feel, this is not happening nowadays. So that is something people should follow, and I will request all our viewers that if they have any kind of questions, or if they want to ask anything about altitude or acclimatization, they can always ask us questions through the podcast or the
Yes.
on the platform that we are putting this podcast. So I think that will really help them. Okay. So what are the different illnesses that people may face on the altitude?
So let us look at it in two clear ways. Illnesses is a fairly big topic. I would
Mm-hmm.
suggest that people study and undertake a first aid course. But let me respond to that, and then I'll come to the more important topic. See, largely the wilderness medicine classifies illnesses into three main titles or names.
Okay.
One is acute mountain sickness. The second is high altitude pulmonary edema,
Edema.
where there is fluid accumulation in the lungs, and high altitude cerebral edema, where there is fluid accumulation in the brain.
Right.
What is important for us to know, and I am now coming to the second part, is there are mild signs and symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
there are moderate signs and symptoms, and there are severe signs and symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a progression. HACE, which is high altitude cerebral edema, progresses really fast.
Yes.
But these two tend to kind of go through these stages largely.
Mm.
It is important for us to be able to understand and recognize signs and symptoms of mild illness related to
Mm-hmm.
high altitude so as to take corrective action and prevent condition becoming moderate, forget severe.
Right.
Right? So I think that is important, which is where these practical things, practical tips come up. Now, what I would like to end with is how do I recognize that थिंग्स आर नॉर्मल, ये सब एडजस्टमेंट हो रहा है मेरा ऑल्टीट्यूड में, और अभी थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ चालू हो गया है और मुझे करेक्टिव एक्शन लेनी है. तो मेरा हार्ट रेट थोड़ा सा बढ़ गया, नॉर्मल है. मेरे को डिस्टर्ब स्लीप है, नॉर्मल है.
नॉर्मल है.
माई एपिटाइट हैज गॉन डाउन, नॉर्मल है. When I start getting a mild headache, I think I should take action.
Okay.
Yeah. When I start feeling nausea, a feeling of vomiting, अगर मेरी उल्टी जैसा आ रहा है, तो I think I should start taking action. क्योंकि शरीर मुझे अभी बता रहा है कि you are not properly getting acclimatized to this altitude. तो आप फिर आपकी चेकलिस्ट देख लो एक बार, पानी
Right.
कितना ले रहे हो, रेस्ट कितनी कर रहे हो, कुछ नहीं. What we need to understand is, and this is the underlying statement, and I think we can stop here then. There are only two cures for non-acclimatization. One is acclimatization, second is go down, मतलब आप height
Yes.
lose कीजिए.
Yes.
इसके अलावा no medicine, nothing helps
Help on
acclimatization.
that.
ये हमें ध्यान में रखना चाहिए.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming,
My
and
pleasure.
I hope people will enjoy this show.
Yeah.
And I'll again request all the viewers that if you have any questions, please do write us. Please ask us. I think Shantanu sir will answer all those questions.
I'll
So
be
thank
glad
you
to.
very much for coming.
Thanks for having me over.
Thank you. So thank you very much for watching the podcast. We are looking forward to have more and more such podcasts very soon. Let us know your thoughts, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel. So looking forward. Thank you.